I will never forget the moment my girlfriend told me I would never amount to anything because I am just a mechanic. That moment changed everything. I am Jake, 29 years old, and I have been with Victoria for almost 2 years now. What happened last night has me questioning everything about our relationship, and I need some perspective from people who will give it to me straight. Victoria is 27, smart as hell, has her MBA from a decent business school, and works as a marketing manager at a growing startup. She pulls in about $75K annually, which is solid money. Me. I own a small auto repair shop called Morrison's Auto Repair that my dad helped me start before he passed 5 years ago. I make around $55K working 10-12-hour days, sometimes more when big jobs come in. Here is what has been eating at me. Over the past 6 months, I have started noticing these little things that feel like paper cuts. Victoria never visits my shop. Not once in 2 years. When her friends ask what I do for work, she gives this vague answer about me being in the automotive industry. Technically true, but it feels like she is hiding something shameful. Last week, I invited her to my shop's 5-year anniversary celebration. Nothing fancy. Just pizza with my 2 employees Tony and Marcus, plus some of our regular customers who have become genuine friends over the years. These are good people who trust me with their vehicles and their problems. Victoria looked at me like I had suggested we spend the evening in a sewer. I really cannot make it tonight, she said. I have that early yoga class tomorrow, and I do not want to smell like motor oil all night. That comment hit me harder than I expected. I mean, I shower and change clothes before going anywhere important, but the way she said it made it sound like my workplace was somehow contaminating. Then last night happened, and I am still trying to process it. I was telling Victoria about this incredible opportunity that just landed in my lap. Mrs. Sarah Bennett, this elderly lady from the wealthy side of town, came into my shop with a 1967 Mustang Shelby GT 500 that belonged to her late husband. The car has been sitting in climate-controlled storage for 15 years, but it needs a complete frame-off restoration to bring it back to original specifications. What makes this special is that Mrs. Bennett specifically sought me out. She had been asking around at classic car shows and someone recommended my work with vintage Ford engines. This is exactly the kind of project that could open doors to a whole different level of automotive work. The kind of restoration projects that serious collectors pay serious money for. I was excited telling Victoria about it. This felt like validation that I have built something real, that my reputation is growing beyond just neighborhood oil changes and brake jobs. Her response crushed me. "Why are you wasting your talent on old junk?" she said, not even looking up from her phone. "You should be applying to Tesla corporate or BMW headquarters. Get a real job where you do not have to get dirty for a living." I tried to explain that this was not just about fixing an old car. This was about craftsmanship, about taking something broken and making it perfect again. The technical challenges, the attention to detail, the satisfaction of bringing a piece of automotive history back to life. Victoria finally looked up from her phone with that expression she gets when she thinks I am being naive about the world. "Jake, be realistic about your future," she said. "You will never amount to anything staying in that garage. I cannot see myself building a life with someone who has no real ambition." I just sat there speechless. The woman I love had just told me that everything I have worked to build, everything I take pride in, was essentially worthless. In her mind, I was not a skilled craftsman or a small business owner. I was just some guy who got dirty for a living and would never be worth the effort of a serious relationship. What kills me is that I genuinely love Victoria. But sitting there last night, I realized she does not love the real me. She loves some imaginary version of me that wears a suit to work and has a corporate title she can brag about to her friends. The real me. The one who can diagnose a complex engine problem by sound alone, who has customers drive from 2 states away because they trust my work, who takes genuine pride in solving mechanical puzzles that stump other shops. That person seems to embarrass her. Am I wrong for being devastated by this? Should I be working harder to meet her standards? Or is it reasonable to expect the person you love to respect what you do with your life? Little did I know that this conversation would be the beginning of the most transformative period of my life. Edit. For those asking why I have not addressed this with Victoria before, I have tried. Every time I bring up feeling like she does not respect my work, She says she is just trying to help me reach my potential. But her version of potential apparently means abandoning everything I have spent 15 years learning and starting over in some corporate environment where I would be miserable. Update 1. I decided to take on Mrs. Bennett's Shelby restoration project regardless of what Victoria thought about it. This was not just about proving a point, this was about honoring my craft and taking a shot at the kind of work I had always dreamed of doing. The restoration took me nearly 18 months of meticulous work. I completely disassembled a $200,000 classic car down to the frame, rebuilt the 428 Police Interceptor engine with period-correct parts, restored the original parchment interior, and achieved a paint finish that looked exactly like it did when it rolled off the Shelby production line in 1967. Every evening, I would come home exhausted but energized, eager to tell Victoria about the technical challenges I was solving. The carburetor adjustments, the suspension geometry, the painstaking process of color matching 50-year-old paint. This was the most complex project I had ever undertaken, and I was nailing every detail. Victoria's reaction to my enthusiasm was like watching someone slowly deflate a balloon. "You have been working on that car for months," she would say. "A normal job would give you steady income instead of these obsessive hobby projects." When Mrs. Bennett came to pick up the finished Shelby, she brought 3 of her friends from the classic car collector community. They spent an hour going over every detail of the restoration, asking technical questions about my process, taking photos of the engine bay and interior work. Mrs. Bennett handed me a check for $85,000. Before anyone asks, yes, that is standard pricing for a complete concours-level restoration of a numbers-matching Shelby. She got quotes from shops in California and Florida, and mine was actually competitive while being local. But what happened next was even better. Mrs. Bennett asked if she could recommend my work to other serious collectors. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 more restoration inquiries: a 1969 Camaro Z-Fe 28, a 1970 Plymouth Cuda with a 446 pack, and a 1965 split-window Corvette. I was so excited to share this success with Victoria. This was proof that I had not just fixed an old car. I had opened a door into a completely different market where craftsmanship was valued and compensated accordingly. Her response floored me. $85,000 to make an old car pretty. She said, "You could earn that much in a year at a real company without all this stress." That was when I realized Victoria would never be proud of anything I accomplished in this field, no matter how successful I became. In her mind, working with my hands would always be lesser than working in an office. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago. Victoria got promoted to senior marketing manager and wanted to celebrate with her work colleagues at this trendy restaurant downtown. I was genuinely excited for her achievement, took the afternoon off to get properly cleaned up, bought her flowers, made sure I looked presentable for her big night. At dinner, I made an effort to be the supportive boyfriend. I asked thoughtful questions about her coworkers' projects, listened to their industry stories, kept conversations flowing smoothly. But every time someone asked about my work, Victoria would intercept the conversation. "Jake works on cars," she would say with this dismissive gesture, like she was brushing away something unpleasant, nothing too exciting. When one guy named David started asking genuine questions about the restoration process, he was actually fascinated by the technical precision involved. Victoria literally rolled her eyes. "He is just a mechanic," she said. "Can we talk about something more interesting?" The way she said "just a mechanic" made me feel like I had shrunk to nothing, like I was some embarrassing accessory she had to manage in public. The drive home was silent until Victoria broke the tension. "You completely embarrassed me tonight, Jake," she said. "My coworkers probably think I am settling for some blue-collar guy who cannot do any better." Something inside me snapped. "Embarrassed you?" I said. "I showed up clean, was polite to everyone, supported your promotion, and asked intelligent questions about their work. What exactly did I do wrong?" "It is not what you did," Victoria replied. "It is what you represent. You work with your hands. You get dirty every day. You make less money than I do now. You will never amount to anything if you stay in that garage. And I cannot build a future with someone who refuses to have any real ambition." Her words hung in the air between us, and I felt something fundamental shift inside my chest. Not rage, exactly, but this sudden clarity about who Victoria really was and how she had always seen me. "If that is honestly how you feel about me and everything I have built," I said quietly, "then this relationship is over." Victoria immediately tried to backtrack. "I did not mean it like that," she said. "I just want what is best for you. I love you." But there was no taking those words back. You do not accidentally develop that level of contempt for someone's life work. That feeling had been growing for 2 years. I moved out that weekend and have been staying with my buddy Tommy, who runs a successful welding shop, and apparently also falls short of Victoria's standards for acceptable career choices. Victoria has been calling and texting constantly, claiming that work stress made her say things she did not mean, but stress does not create feelings like that from nothing. It just reveals what was already there. Here is the part that Victoria does not know yet. Since Mrs. Bennett started spreading the word about my work in the classic car community, my phone has been ringing off the hook. These are not weekend hobbyists with beat-up muscle cars. These are serious collectors with climate-controlled garages and unlimited budgets who understand the difference between a quick fix and museum-quality restoration. I have 4 major projects lined up, each one worth between $60,000 and $110,000. The Porsche 911 restoration alone is worth $95,000 because the owner wants it built to perfect period specifications for vintage racing. For the first time in months, I wake up excited about going to work instead of constantly defending my career to someone who will never understand its value. Little did Victoria know that her attempts to diminish me had actually pushed me toward the biggest opportunity of my professional life. Edit. People keep asking about the other restoration projects. The 1969 Camaro Z-Fe 28 needs a complete numbers-matching drivetrain, rebuild with original L78 engine specs. The Plymouth Cuda is getting a full restoration of its 446-pack powertrain for a collector who wants to show it at Pebble Beach. The Corvette split window needs everything. Frame-off restoration with original 327 engine rebuild. These are not just repairs, they are automotive archaeology projects. Edit 2. To those suggesting I should have compromised with Victoria. What exactly should I have compromised? My livelihood? My passion, the business I built from nothing. Some things are not negotiable, and self-respect is definitely one of them. Update 2. I never imagined my life could change this dramatically in such a short time. The classic car restoration work has completely transformed not just my business, but my entire perspective on what is possible when you refuse to let someone else define your worth. The demand for high-end restoration work in my area was apparently massive and completely untapped. Within 6 months, I had to hire 3 additional master mechanics, lease a 8,000 square foot facility with proper paint booths and frame straightening equipment, and invest in specialized tools that cost more than some people's cars. We are no longer Morrison's Auto Repair handling daily drivers and routine maintenance. I officially rebranded as Morrison Classic Restorations, and we exclusively work on vintage and classic automobiles from 1950 through 1985. The transformation has been incredible to witness. When you are working on a numbers-matching 1969 Boss 429 Mustang worth $300,000, the owner is not shopping for the cheapest option. They want perfection, and they understand that perfection requires time, skill, and premium pricing. The profit margins on this work are extraordinary compared to regular automotive repair. 3 months ago, I signed an exclusive partnership agreement with Barrett-Jackson Auction House to handle all their restoration and pre-auction preparation work for the Southwest region. The contract guarantees $450,000 in annual revenue, plus performance bonuses for cars that exceed their estimated auction values. I also have standing agreements with Bonham's Auction House and 2 high-end classic car dealerships in California who regularly send me projects. My accountant. Yes, I have a real accountant now. Projects we will close this year at $1.9 million in revenue. We are booked solid through next spring, and I turn away projects every week. Tommy has been helping me with business administration since paperwork and financial planning are not my natural strengths. Turns out when you combine genuine passion with 15 years of refined skill, success follows more naturally than anyone expects. This is where the story gets interesting. Victoria found out about my business transformation. She appeared at my new facility 2 weeks ago, claiming she was just in the neighborhood. My shop is located in an industrial complex next to a freight rail yard. Nobody accidentally ends up in my neighborhood. I was fine-tuning the fuel injection system on a 1973 Porsche 911 Carrera RS when I heard her voice talking to Marcus at the front desk. My stomach dropped for a moment, but then I realized something important. I was not devastated anymore. I was just annoyed at the interruption. "Jake, I have been doing a lot of serious thinking about us," Victoria said, looking around at the immaculate shop floor and the $250,000 worth of classic cars in various stages of restoration. "I was going through an incredibly stressful period at work when we broke up, and I said things that did not reflect my true feelings. I always knew you had tremendous potential. I was just trying to motivate you to achieve it faster." I did not stop working on the Porsche. Something about continuing to focus on my craft while she talked felt important. "Victoria," I said without looking up, "you told me I would never amount to anything. You said you could not build a future with someone who had no real ambition. Those were your exact words. But look at what you have accomplished," she said, gesturing around the shop. "You are running a major business now, working with expensive cars, making real money. This proves I was right to push you towards something bigger." The revisionist history was breathtaking. She was attempting to take credit for success that came directly from me, doubling down on exactly what she had wanted me to abandon. I finally slid out from under the Porsche, wiped my hands with a shop rag, and looked at her directly. "Victoria, I appreciate you stopping by to see what I have built," I said. "But I am in a relationship now with someone who thinks what I do is incredible." Her expression cycled through surprise, confusion, and something that looked like panic. "Someone from here?" she asked, glancing around at my employees. "Her name is Emma," I said. "She is a veterinarian who runs the emergency animal clinic about 15 minutes from here. She thinks it is amazing that I can take a pile of corroded metal and turn it into something beautiful and functional again." Victoria left pretty quickly after that conversation, but not before asking if we could stay in touch as friends. I politely declined. Emma and I met in the most ordinary way possible. My pickup truck broke down right outside her veterinary clinic at 7 in the morning. The timing belt snapped while I was driving to work. I was standing there looking at the engine, trying to figure out if I could limp it to my shop, when she came outside to start her day. Instead of walking past like most people would, she asked if I needed help. "Well," I said, "I can rebuild a 1967 Shelby engine from memory, but I am completely stranded by my own truck right now." She laughed and said, "I can perform emergency surgery on a Great Dane, but I am completely useless with timing belts. Want me to call you a tow truck?" We ended up talking for 30 minutes while we waited for the tow. She asked thoughtful questions about how internal combustion engines worked, seemed genuinely curious about the mechanical principles involved. No condescension, no suggestion that I should be doing something more prestigious with my life. When I mentioned that I specialized in classic car restoration, her eyes lit up. "That must be like mechanical archaeology," she said. "Taking something that is broken or forgotten and bringing it back to perfect condition." That was the moment I knew she understood what this work really represented. On our third date, she asked if she could see my shop. She spent 3 hours walking through the facility, asking detailed questions about restoration techniques, tool functions, and project timelines. When I showed her the frame-off restoration work on a 1970 Chevelle SS, she said, "This is like surgery, but you are rebuilding an entire patient piece by piece." What did Victoria know that she did not realize? That her attempt to make me feel small had actually pushed me toward the most successful period of my professional life. Edit. Several people have asked about Emma meeting my social circle. She fits in perfectly with my friends and employees. Tommy and his wife adore her. My mechanics think she is great, and she genuinely enjoys our Friday evening barbecues where we sit around talking about current projects. Victoria always made it clear that she considered my friends beneath her social standards. Edit 2. For those asking about business growth, we just purchased the building we were leasing, and I am negotiating to acquire a second facility specifically for paint and bodywork. The American dream is apparently still functional if you work hard enough and refuse to let anyone convince you to settle for less than you deserve. Final update: it has been almost 3 years since my last update, and the messages asking for closure have been piling up. So here is where this journey has taken me. I will never forget how devastated I felt that night when Victoria told me I would never amount to anything. That moment of crushing rejection became the catalyst for the most transformative period of my life, though I could not have imagined it at the time. Morrison Classic Restorations just completed our third full year with $1 million in revenue. We now operate out of 2 facilities, totaling 18,000 square feet, employ 16 master craftsmen, and have exclusive restoration contracts with 7 major auction houses across the country. Our private client waiting list extends 18 months out, and we regularly turn away projects worth 6 figures because our schedule is completely full. Last month, Hemmings Motor News did an 8-page cover story on our shop titled "The New Standard in Concours Restoration." The photographer spent 4 days documenting our processes, and they featured our award-winning 1970 Plymouth Cuda on the cover. Emma bought 10 copies and had the cover professionally framed for my office, her clinic, and gifts for both our families. Speaking of Emma, we have been married for 18 months now. We held the reception at Tommy's expanded welding facility, because that is where our real community gathers. Emma understands that some weeks I work 90 hours because a client needs their car ready for a specific concours event or auction deadline. She has never once suggested that I should scale back or find something easier. When I come home exhausted and covered in metal dust, she hands me a beer and asks about the technical challenges I solved that day. The most important thing about Emma is that she fell in love with my passion for restoration work long before she knew anything about the financial success that followed. She was proud to tell people I was a craftsman when I was still working out of a small garage, not just after I became successful. Victoria has made several additional attempts at reconnection over the years. She started following our business Instagram account and liking posts going back to when we had 6 followers. She drove by both shop locations multiple times after we expanded. Last year, she even showed up at a classic car show where we were displaying 3 of our award-winning restorations. The most absurd incident happened 6 months ago. Victoria sent me a LinkedIn message saying she was exploring new career opportunities in the automotive industry and wondered if Morrison Classic might need someone for business development and strategic marketing. She offered to leverage her MBA and marketing expertise to help expand our client base. The audacity was remarkable. The woman who had spent 2 years telling me that working on cars was beneath my potential now wanted to profit from the success she had insisted was impossible. I did not dignify that message with a response. Here is what that devastating conversation with Victoria taught me. The right person will recognize your worth when you are making $55K in a small garage, not just when you are running a multi-million-dollar business. Emma fell in love with my dedication to craftsmanship before she knew anything about auction house contracts or revenue projections. Victoria never actually had a problem with my income level. She had a problem with my work not fitting her narrow definition of prestigious success. That limitation belonged to her, not to me. What Victoria did not realize during that crushing conversation was that her rejection would become the motivation I needed to pursue opportunities I had never considered before. Her attempt to make me feel small actually pushed me toward the biggest professional breakthrough of my life. I wake up every morning excited to work on automotive masterpieces alongside craftsmen who share my obsession with perfection. Emma brings me lunch twice a week and genuinely enjoys hearing about whatever technical puzzle I am solving. Our shop has become a destination for collectors from around the world who understand the difference between adequate work and artistic excellence. The moment that changed everything was not when Victoria rejected my work. It was when I decided that her opinion did not define my worth.